Let me tell you the context of why we've brought the Minister in the Presidency here in studio. A little over 2 months into office now, the Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele, recently found himself held hostage by a group of military veterans. Now, the veterans claiming the government had failed its liberation fighters and are demanding compensation for their part in the struggle to achieve democracy in South Africa. Well, Gungubele joins me now to talk about this and other issues that are pertinent at this time. Mr. Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Collie. Good morning to your viewership.
It's good to see you face to face.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming in. Let me start, Minister, with this pressing issue of the veterans. They are before courts. Their case is ongoing as they try to apply for bail. Their grievance is quite a simple one, that commitments were made that they were going to be helped financially by government. Quick question. How much has government extended to them, and do they still qualify for more?
There's quite a number of things that have been done towards military veterans. Probably even the demobilization, what to call, divestments, and a number of other things. Have we done enough? No. I think that's the reason the President put together a presidential task team last year to actually get close. Remember, the Military Veterans Act was deliberately put together to focus on military veterans.
Yeah.
Be it issues of...
Minister, I'm sorry to do this to you. Can I just ask you to pause for a moment? Perhaps, Minister, it might be a good one to start with what has just been said there. I know I'm digressing now, but...
You're brain working. It's fine.
We have to start with the state of the Free State municipalities. The majority of them are in a state of despair, to put it lightly. You look at the one that was visited recently by the President in his capacity as ANC President, Maluti Apofong. That municipality has been a mess for years. Is it justified that Ace Makashule says, under my watch, and he's clear, he's very unflinching, that I was a premier for 10 years. Is it correct to say the municipalities there were the best?
Listen, I won't speak on behalf of the SG. For known reasons. But I'll speak on the fact that that's why the President has made a commitment together with the governing party that the people deployed in municipality now, there will be more vigorous interviews. It has already started with 2 or 3 municipalities, and there will be also, I just saw a scroll here saying the President will be signing pledges with the councillors. It's because ANC looked at the state, the governing party looked at the state of municipality, and the President and the collective felt unhappy about that.
Yeah.
How does the SG feel about it? That's not for my comment.
But is it fair to say that municipalities during his term of office were the best? Because if they were the best, how is it that they have completely collapsed at the start of this administration?
I repeat clearly, I'm not going to speak on behalf of the SG, but I'll say the governing party has acknowledged the challenges that are confronting municipality, not just in Free State. That's why the special interventions that are being made now. I refuse to speak on behalf of the SG.
All right, let's take a pause there, and we're going to go back to the original question which I started with, and it's around the topical issue of the military veterans that held key among the people, the very person who sits with me in studio here, hostage. We're going to continue the conversation in a moment. Very good morning to you. You're watching Newsfeed AM, and we are in conversation with the Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele, and he's here to speak on a number of issues. Minister, thank you very much once again for joining us. Let me ask you to just be very brief in your responses, because this case surrounding the suspended Secretary General of the ANC is clearly going to interrupt us. So it's going to be best that we get many of the questions I have for you out of the way. You were still answering the question about how much has been given to the veterans of this struggle and whether they still qualify for more?
I repeat, the reason the PTT was put in place, which constituted work streams, was to deal with a number of issues that affect veterans, be it the laws of the country, the socio-economic situation, be it the issue of their children getting to school, and a number of issues, the pension and so on. There are work streams that are dealing with that.
Okay.
There is a progress report to that effect, which is under the purview of the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Defense. Mm-hmm. Of course, as presidents, we're also involved in that. The reason we were meeting these guys, we thought we were going to ask our guys, our teams, to take them through and hear what their frustrations are. Mm. But the meeting could not proceed.
And did the meeting collapse at the point where they were making a very clear demand that each of us, we think we are entitled to 4 million rand each, and how many people are we talking here if they are to receive 4 million?
Listen, the president indicated clearly last year that the fiscal situation of the country as we speak cannot afford that. I think that point was cleared as early as last year, I think around December, if not November. But what collapsed the meeting is not that. They wanted the deputy president and the president to be in the meeting. They said at least the deputy president or the president. And we told them that we were delegated to deal with the issues. And they were not prepared to accept that. Their view is that we didn't have the capacity to deal with those issues. And our view is that the president is an individual who runs the entire country. Mm. He's got the machinery. If we cannot be able to deliver what the president has equipped us and guided us and directed us to deliver, then there's no need for a government.
So
we
the
can
simple
have a
answer,
country run by the president alone.
So the simple answer to the demand of 4 million rand each is that government does not have that money.
No, it can't afford. I think that point has been made.
All right.
But there's a lot of various approaches that are being looked at to ease the problems of the veterans.
All right. Mm. Is there any doubt, Minister, for the record, in your mind that what took place on Thursday night last week was you and 2 fellow ministers being held hostage?
Let me put it this way. We kept on speaking about ministries only. There's a lot of officials there who were there. Mm. Sometimes, and actually who were trying to assist, by the way, to defuse the situation. Mm. Dr. Gwen Ramahupa, our VIPs, my PA, and the support to the minister. There's a lot of other people who were there who were faced with that situation. But where I'm sitting, the court will pronounce. All I can say, we're kept there against our will.
And that's a hostage situation. You were being held hostage?
Yes.
Okay. So if the answer is yes,
an appropriate English word, yeah.
If the answer is yes, Minister, is that not a crime against the state to hold government ministers hostage?
Our situation, that's why we want to leave it to the courts. And at face value, you find it being kept against your will in this country as illegal. But the interaction between those who will actually be engaging on this matter in court will determine what the court pronounces. But at face value, we're held hostage, yes.
Well, in the books of...
In other words, we're kept against our will.
Indeed.
Yes.
You were being held hostage.
Yes, yes.
So, Minister, the people then that are before court right now, it's quite clear that they are in serious trouble. And if we agree that you were held hostage, how is it that the head of state has not come out publicly to say something about what took place on Thursday? Because many have sought to characterize what happened on Thursday as something that is threatening the security of the country, which harks back to the July incident, the July unrest.
I don't know, Coley, what does the person of the president require that comes into this issue. The point is, that thing happened on the 14th, am I right? Yes. The following day, the presidency, together with the minister, took the country to confidence, to a press conference which was not less than 30 minutes. So when we speak, we represent the president. Unless, again, you do what happened on the 14th, that unless the president is there in person, he has not spoken. Would not say anything that is in contradiction with what the chief commander actually represents.
So there's nothing wrong, in your view, with the president not having felt it important to address the nation on a situation or in a situation where his ministers, key among them, a defense minister, were held hostage?
Government has condemned that. What government was supposed to say said about that. Whether the president still had to say something is a matter that I don't want to comment, but the point I'm making is that where I'm sitting, the government that the president leads pronounced on the matter and condemned it.
Minister, I've already alluded to this issue, that the combination of the July unrest and this latest incident, people have looked at it and have concluded that the country's security is under serious threat. Do you agree with that observation?
Well, it depends, Tolly, how do you look at it? Let me explain this. Of course, we agree that it was an attempted insurrection. Therefore, it doesn't speak well about the security in that sense. But the point I want to make to you is that if you follow a number of these developments, in my view and my experience, are happening when the state is intensifying its stance against corruption. Also when the governing party is doing the same thing. And in my view, I do want to put my head on the line. But a number of these things are more a pushbacks against the anti-corruption stance. So when you deal with corruptions, generally those who are affected will not actually wash and sing for you. I thought I want to put my head on the line for that.
All right. So this is a...
So in other words, the point I'm trying to make, there will be a lot of desperations that are going to find manifestation in the process.
Yes.
Yes.
And all of it has to do with the pushback against corruption.
I'm saying amongst others. But the main thing to me is that.
At least, Minister, I'm going to pick up on the corruption element. But as far as security in the country is concerned, you and I have to agree that generally it would appear that we are a lawless society if someone as senior as an MEC or a MEC in a province is indicted on double murder charges and has been sitting in police cells. By the way, coincidentally, that case is going to be heard today, Mandla Msibi in Mpumalanga. Surely, that is a huge blemish on this administration's fight against crime. You agree?
Unless truly a lawful country means a country with no legal offenses. I guess if I'm listening to you, a lawful country is a country where there are no legal offenses. Therefore, no need for adjudication, no need for courts. I want to see that country. I've never seen it. Because a lawful country is the country that adhere to its laws. When those laws are breached, there are processes that are invoked. And this country is no different from other countries. United States, for instance, which is said to be the greatest democracy on earth, not long ago found itself caught up in the Capitol. People attacking. The point I'm making is that the key thing is what does a country... Our democracy is still young. Our democracy is still maturing. We are a bunch of people who have been oppressed for no less than 300 years. We have a duty in the past 20-something years to live with the implications of a democratic society, with all its implications. Sometimes there's a temptation to those who are oppressed to think that law cannot be used against themselves because the apartheid law was used against them. Those are some of the things we need to actually make sure that the new South Africa settles and all of us understand we're equal before the law.
Minister, let me tell you why on the score of corruption, that's where we're going now, because you sought to raise this matter. You've said that many of the things that are happening
That's my general
in the country is a pushback against corruption. There's the issue, though, Minister, of a premier of a province who woke up and said, You cannot investigate me, telling this country's elite crime-fighting unit, you can't investigate me. If anything, I'm actually going to stop you by going to court, simply because I feel that whatever it is that you're doing, it's politically motivated. That's a statement against the president, the person who leads you in government, who has said a number of times that law enforcement in the country operates independently. Tell me I'm wrong.
Let me just put it this way, Koli. I'm always reluctant to attack politics when the law enforcement agencies are confronted anywhere. But however, the credit you must give to that premier, he has gone to the law enforcement institutions to ask the relevant structures to clarify his concern. He is not going anywhere else other than the law enforcement. Whether he is wrong, the cost will pay.
Have you ever seen that done before, though, Minister? Where someone who has yet to have charges preferred against him saying, I'm aware you are investigating me, but I need you to stop. When has that ever happened?
I'm not going to sit here, Koli, and speak on the evidence before Premier Mabuyane. But what heartens me is that whatever problem he seems to be faced with, he is taking to court. The biggest challenge we're faced in this country with Mabuyane, I'm calling you Mabuyane, is that is the centrality of the law. You know, the law in democratic societies is the key tool for adjudication of disputes. The future of any country that messes up with the centrality of the law, that future is a future that is in skids. The point I want to make to you, I repeat, I respect him that he's going to the law enforcement institution to adjudicate on what he believes. And I think we must give that a space, and let's hear the adjudication institutions what are they going to say about it.
All right, Minister, we're going to pick up on this point because I hold the strong belief that he is undermining the very president who leads this country right now by saying the statements that he said. But we're going to pick up on that point in a moment.
But how does he undermine the president?
We're going to pick up on that.
Okay, fine. All right, let's hear that.
We continue shortly. You're watching Newsfeed AM, and as we await the start of the court process surrounding the suspended Secretary General of the African National Congress, we're going to continue the conversation with the Minister in the Presidency here, Mondli Gungubele. Minister, just before we went on a break, I made the statement that Mr. Mabuyane is undermining his president, and this is how he's doing so. He says that the Hawks may be acting politically on the back of the statements of Ace Magashule.
What has that to do with the president?
That has to do with the fact that the president has said that law enforcement under his administration is allowed to act independently without fear or favor. That statement suggests that Oscar Mabuyane is saying this administration, under this administration, law enforcement is being influenced politically.
Maybe before Tony we get there, maybe let me clear this point. I hold no brief for Comrade Oscar Mabuyane. If he is found to be corrupt, he will have to confront and face the law and deal with the consequences. I hold no brief for anyone when it comes to corruption, including my children, my wife, anyone, including the president. So I just want to clear that. Okay. When it comes to corruption, I hold no brief for anyone. No one must escape the law if he's found to be corrupt. But let's look at this case. Mabuyane says he feels unjustly treated. And when he feels like that, he hires lawyers to go to court.
No, Minister.
No,
Minister. We're talking about the statement that suggests that law enforcement is politically influenced in this country under the Ramaphosa administration.
But why do you say he says it's influenced by self?
No. He says it's influenced by Magashule.
No.
Magashule is a political figure in the country.
Let's put this point again. I repeat this. I am not comfortable with anyone who castigate, who cast aspersions on the law enforcement. Maybe let me also put that clear. Two, I'm not comfortable with that. That's why anyone who cast aspersions on the law enforcement must go to court and prove that.
I think we're making progress now,
yes,
Minister. So let me quickly add this.
Wait a bit.
Okay.
The point I'm making is that if it is not impossible, let me repeat this. I have not come across it. It is not impossible that there can be political manipulation of legal system. It happens all over the world. It does not always have to be influenced by the president. The fact that when anyone says he is worried about political manipulation of the law enforcement is always referring to the president, could also be a misplaced, so-called observation.
Minister, Oscar Mabuyane, should he not be sitting at home right now trying to see whether or not he's going to win this battle, but not in government office? Simply put, should he not have been placed on special leave? Because remember, the public protector has found against him, and the public protector's findings and recommendations are binding.
You called me here, Koli, as a minister in presidency, but I know it's always difficult not to straddle between these lines. Where I'm sitting, I do take a risk of not running away from the fact that I belong to that party, although I'm not here for that. Pulemabo would be a better place to deal with that. But let me say this to you.
No, but we're talking about Oscar Mabuyane's capacity as premier.
Yes.
Yes.
You see, who stands aside or not depends on the veracity of your offense, probably the weight of the implications, but from the governing party, which I still support that, because of the complexity of the phase through which the party is going, a process has been chosen that you are either formally charged or you go to the Integrity Commission. On the basis of those two instances,
yes,
you can step aside depending on what comes out of that, or you can make up your own call. And that is always an individual's call.
Minister, I'm running out of time. I've got to ask you this question. Eswatini is flaring up again. The president of our country now is the chair of the SADC organ on defense, politics, and security. He must by now have received the fact-finding mission report of the July incidents. Are you in a position to share with us what that report has concluded on what happened in Swaziland?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay. You're not able to share at the moment the contents of that report. That's fine. Let's move on with this question then. The ordinary people of Eswatini have repeatedly asked our government for help, crying that they're suffering under a dictatorship. What have we done to help them?
A judgment call, Koli, on the state of a country which is independent. It's not a simplistic call. In South Africa, the belief we have is that, if possible, the problems of a different country be resolved within the instruments that exist in that country. To what extent does South Africa get involved? It depends on a number of breaches, which I think, depending on how Mamnaledi, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and all the other heads of other states who are involved, brief, is there a need for South Africa to be involved? That advice would only emanate from that report.
Well,
what is the situation now? I cannot make a call.
Minister,
although at face value, what is happening in Swaziland doesn't look good. I can make that point.
Okay. There is one element, though, that presses our government to get involved in Swaziland, and it's as a result of this next soundbite. This is a South African who finds himself in that country, and I don't think the conditions that he's being held under are favorable. Let's just have a listen, firstly, to this bite.
Amos Mbenze is a South African citizen from Makonde, Thohoyandou in Limpopo. He was arrested and sentenced to 85 years in prison in 2008. So he has been there since. And what is much more painful is that he has been, he suffered a stroke early this year after the death of his mother, and he's now on diapers on a wheelchair. So we are appealing to South African government that if they can send ministers to different countries to go and visit drug malls, people that are destroying other nations, surely they can also intervene in this case of Amos Mbenze. His only crime was to enter Swaziland and be in solidarity with the people of Swaziland. So therefore, he needs to be released on humanitarian grounds.
Minister, are you aware of this individual as the South African government, and can he be helped?
No, I don't know. One needs to be exposed to the hard evidence of the situations and their specifics. And to what extent does it breach the sovereignty of South Africa and it stands to the international laws? There's a lot of judgments that must be made with regard to that. But on this one, I'm very careful. I wouldn't want even to take a risk and express a view. Now that you have told me, it's a matter one is going to follow up and have an idea what exactly is happening. Of course, one sympathizes with the South African who is in that situation.
Minister Gungubele, thank you very much for your time. That's where we're going to end this conversation.